introduce you. So if you could please in the chat, go ahead and introduce yourself. If you are just an individual activist or you're just interested in learning more about environmental justice work, go ahead and introduce yourself and also let us know what county you're from. Um, we're really interested on this training to know where people are getting involved and if we can help support you in any way. So please go ahead, pop that in the chat. And while you're doing that and reading where other people are from, I'm going to go ahead and just ask that everybody stay on mute. This is a regular Zoom meeting, so we do want participation towards the end for Q&A, but please remain on mute. And if you're doing anything distracting on your camera, I'd also ask that you please mute your camera as well. Me and Jenny will be kind of just trading back and forth throughout the training. So just sit back and you can feel free to pop any questions in the chat, but the facilitators are going to be holding most questions till the very end. So with that being said, Jenny, are you good to go?
Good. Yep. Talk to everybody.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rolling. So this training is how to read oil and gas incident reports. This training is actually by Jenny Morgan. Jenny Morgan has done so much for Buckeye Environmental Network and other organizations, requesting just tons of information about some of the mess ups of the oil and gas industry and turning them into really easy and digestible narratives. She was cited in Frack Tracker this year about some of the work that she's been doing, and she's going to be teaching you about it today. So Jenny, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Thanks, Anton, and welcome. My name is Jenny. I'm in Central Ohio. I grew up here. I'm a couple of things I'm involved in. I am steering team of Save Ohio Parks. I'm on the Brine Task Force and have been for several years. So lots of friends on this. And I'm also founder of the Leave No Child Inside Central Ohio Collaborative, which is a group to get kids off of computers and reconnect them with the natural world. I also have a group that Teresa Mills, the famous Teresa Mills, helped me with Citizen Pollution Watch. I saw her counsel a local issue here in Western Ohio regarding an asphalt plant, so I started Citizen Pollution Watch. And I'm also a singer-songwriter and a preschool teacher.
Thank you, Jenny. And it's such an honor to know you and work with such talented activists. I'm going to go ahead and get rolling. We have a few goals here. This is just an overview for everybody to keep in mind. This is what we're trying to do on this training. You're going to learn what an incident is. You're going to learn to identify the useful information on an incident report. Learn to use the additional resources to research your incident. And you're also going to learn how to get involved with Buckeye Environmental Network. So in case you missed our last webinar, Roxanne Groff, who's on the webinar today in the audience, she helped us put on a wonderful how to make a public records request like a pro. And this can greatly enhance some of the information that you're going to be learning today here. And I also just wanted to mention that it's kind of funny, but we use an example, Jenny. If you can look on the computer screen, Jenny Morgan is the person who made this public records request. Jenny, I see you got your hand raised.
I do. I don't see the screen share. Am I missing it?
Oh no. Oh no. Let me pause and reshare. How's that, Jenny?
That's it.
All right, great. We're going to go ahead and listen to some words from Rob Brundrett, who is the president of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association. And what you're going to see is as he's talking, I'm going to be scrolling through a spreadsheet of all of the hundreds of incident reports that happened in Ohio in just 2023 and 2022. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video. Let me know if you can hear. Oop.
Hydraulic fracturing is really, I mean, what you do is you drill straight down. And so you're very high up and underground is the water table. And you drill well past that, thousands and thousands of feet. And then you drill out many thousands and thousands of feet. So really, at least in Ohio, we have had no indications of any kind of pollution whatsoever with water dealt with during the hydraulic fracturing or the drilling process. So, like I said, it's a safe, it's an established technology that continually improves every day. And one of our top priorities is to maintain the environment around us as we work and live and operate in it.
Okay. And I think Bill's question was, is horizontal drilling better for the environment than traditional, vertical drilling?
I would say both are not really a risk at all for the water or really the environment. I think we've seen massive changes in technology with horizontal drilling to prove that it is very safe and environmentally friendly, quite honestly, as far as with the water protection goes.
All right, so those are lies from Rob Brundrett. Obviously, it's just not one or two incidences, and there's a lot of different
hydraulic fracturing is really,
there's a lot of different ways that things can go wrong in the oil and gas industry. So I'm going to show you another clip of Rob Brundrett speaking in a different radio interview.
Really, I mean, what you do.
There we go.
How has the safety been from your perspective over the past 10 years? Environmental contamination and also just health and safety of people who live nearby these operations.
Sure. So, the industry's really took off about, 12, 13 years ago. And I think we're only talking about, one or two instances right here. And so obviously the focus of the industry is on the health and safety. Our people work here, they live here. There's no incentive not to be safety conscious. We work as a basin with OSHA through a program called Appalachian Steps to make sure that the industry itself is doing the absolute most modern and up-to-date issues on anything safety and safety type of things to ensure that we mitigate and work to it so that no issues happen. Environmentally, I think the record pretty much stands for itself. We've not had any real instances environmentally. The oil and gas industry here in Ohio, we work very, very hard to ensure that we're good stewards of the properties we work on.
So you think these two incidents that I mentioned, the methane release and the evacuation because of a natural gas release, they were isolated incidents and not signs of dangers to come from fracking?
I would argue that you're absolutely right. These are isolated incidents. If you look at the amount of activity that's taken place over the last 13 years, these are certainly isolated incidents.
And this 2021 report, sorry, 2020 could keep scrolling for another little bit. So, Jenny, is there anything you'd like to add or tell the audience about that video, that what Rob Brundrett said before we get rolling?
Sure. It reminds me of a scene in Erin Brockovich, right? Where she's like, the lawyer says something completely ridiculous. And Erin Brockovich goes, Julia Roberts goes, okay, that really pisses me off. And then she goes on. Okay, that's just hearing that is just makes my blood boil. And that is what kind of drove me to do these these record requests. When he said that, we all know that cannot possibly be true, which it isn't true. And so the information is there for the taking for us to just get a hold of and become empowered. And that's what I'd say about that.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. I'm actually gonna hand it back to you still, and go ahead and tell us a little bit about incident reporting, and I'll go ahead and open up that document for everybody to see.
Thank you. So just to give you a little bit of context. So after I heard Brundrett say that on the radio, I did record requests from ODNR for 2018 to 2023 for oil and gas related accidents or incidents. And then I did subsequent requests from 2011 to 2024. And so there's thousands and thousands of accidents listed on these reports. Now, I've come to learn as I've done this, like I didn't know who was required to report, what the reporting was all about. What I found was that Kasich passed a law in 2016 that put this one call system in place. Now that means that before that time, there really wasn't much formal tracking of this from what I can tell. And so in 2016, this one call system, which is a 24/7 basically hotline just for gas and oil related incidents. And those who have to report are, you know, people that witness gas and oil related incidents, which a lot of times are the companies, sometimes are inspectors from ODNR, et cetera, or a landowner that, a well is on his or her land. They are required by law to report within 30 minutes of seeing a incident, a spill or whatnot, a gas release, unless there are extenuating circumstances that prevents them from doing so. There's a whole list, and then I guess you could maybe go to that slide, Anton, of the Ohio Revised Code that kind of lays out what it is that has to be reported. And in a nutshell, what has to be reported is our spills, 250 gallons, 210 gallons or more outside a secondary containment area, and we'll talk about what that is. And and this document is online. This document is, so it says a release of gas, any amount is reportable. Hydrogen sulfide exceeding 20 ppm, reportable. Fire explosion, release of oil condensate, which is wet gas or things saturated with it. Release, and here's my little scroll thing here. Release of oil, saturate. Okay, so can you scroll up again? Sorry, Anton.
No problem.
So 210 gallons in a 24-hour period outside the secondary containment. Release of oil and condensate greater than 25. I believe that's in an urban area right here, an emergency zone, a 5-time travel of groundwater supply, 100-year floodplain. Down here is refined oil, 25 gallons or more in a 24-hour period outside the secondary. This is any amount if it goes in water, right? Any creek or anything like that, or enters waters of the state in any amount and causes a film or sheen that has to be reported. Brine, which we know is toxic, contaminated often with radium, radioactive materials, 42 gallons in a 24-hour period outside the containment area. A release from a vehicle, right? Trucks are carrying brine, millions of gallons, on our highways every single day. If something crashes, which it does, that has to be reported. And then hazardous materials, of course, have to be reported. So that's just a quick look at what is required by law, interestingly, that Kasich put into effect in 2016.
Right. And thanks for that background, Jenny, because that's not something that we are necessarily training on, but what you're about to see, what Jenny's going to show us here shortly is all those different types of instances are tracked by ODNR and they're loaded into a spreadsheet, which Jenny's going to share with us. So I'm going to go ahead and resume our PowerPoint. What does an incident report look like? We're not going to spend any time on this, but this is going to be in the slides and be made available to you if you wanted to see what a blank incident report looks like. And then we're going to actually go through an example of Hillcorp from last year. Jenny, I'm going to go ahead and let you share screen so that you can just do a quick run through before we get into the researching aspect of this training. Great, I can see it, Jenny.
I'm okay, honey.
Jenny's on mute.
Jenny, you're on
Yes.
mute. That's okay. Easy mistake. I do it every day.
Jenny, you're still on mute.
I think she knows. She's looking for the
Oh.
bar to pop up. Try the bottom or the top of the screen the microphone will pop up. It's just, it looks a little bit different when you're sharing screen.
There we go. So sorry.
No, that's
Okay.
okay. It's all
I
right.
started the screen share before okay. So let's start with the ODNR tracking sheets. So this is what I requested. And I got tracking sheets, Excel spreadsheets essentially I asked for 2011, but they didn't really start officially tracking this until 2016. So this is a 2023 tracking Excel spreadsheet related to gas and oil incidents. So, and we're going to look into this 2023 170 incident, which is a major incident. Now, what that incident number means obviously is 2023, the year. This is the 170th incident. So we are going to look at all the things I'll just scroll here that you can see. So ODNR puts what the authorized owner was Hillcore. The well was the Fairfield Tarka well. This API number, important, that's the American Petroleum Institute. Every well gets a number. Columbiana County, city, town, village of Latonia, horizontal well during the production phase. Okay, so you get the idea that the released product was gas. There was more than that, but that's what ODNR has there. And it has a measured unit. And then this is always the interesting part, a brief description. And then they say, met with CEC and Hillcore to answer questions, to prepare a site plan, blah, 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 blah. So if you only had this, okay, you're like, okay, what does that mean? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like little, seemingly innocent. Okay, so that's, again, the ODNR tracking sheet. So let's go now to, this is Frac Tracker, which I sent them some of these tracking sheets from ODNR, and they, being the experts that they are, they actually mapped 1,500 of these incidents, right? So let's just focus in on, we're going to go to this Hillcore event, because what I want to encourage you to do is obviously to go and explore some of these accidents, right? So you may not have the Excel spreadsheet, but you do have this. You do have this, which again, Frac Tracker mapped the Excel spreadsheets from 2018 to 2023. So in other words, this, if I've clicked on the right thing, should be Hillcore, right? So this is the ODNR tracking sheet I just showed you in the horizontal. This is in the vertical from Frac Tracker. Loss of well control, Hillcore, Columbiana County, Latonia, right? Horizontal well, estimated quantity release, 0 MCF. They're just taking this right from the tracking sheet that I just read. So you can look at all of these, if your heart desires, and explore all of these accidents. Just click on them and explore them. Okay, so the last 2 months that I've been exploring gas and oil related incidents that I initially got on the tracking sheets from ODNR that I did a public request for. It's kind of evolved into this whole daily exploration of not only the incident, but also the company, also their track record, their environmental track record at ODNR, at the EPA, beyond the EPA, beyond Ohio, and such. So I'm going to just take you through, and I hope it's not too confusing or whatnot. So the first thing that I'll do, and that you could do, is click on what I just did, the frac tracker dot from Hillcore. And you found some of the information, most importantly, the, let's go back, the, most importantly, the API number. Forgive me, let me just get that real quick. So the API number is right.
It was up a little bit. I saw you pass it. Stop.
It is right there. So I'm going to cut and paste that. Thank you, Anton. I'm going to cut and paste that. And this is, and we will provide all these links. This is the ODNR well, the gas and oil well locator. So what I'm going to do, just click on this. This is always a disclaimer that comes up. You have the well API number here. You're going to put it in there. And then you're going to hit return. And that is what's going to come up. That is the well where this incident happened. Now, what are all these black lines? What are all these blue lines over here? What are all these yellow dots? Well, guess what? You can click on them. And it says, this well right here, this green one, horizontal well number, blah, blah, blah. Let's click on the actual well that is circled, which is what we've called up, Hillcore Energy. So it shows you all this information about that well. Now I'm going to click fast through here, and you're just going to, if you want to do this, you're just going to explore like I've explored, right? You're going to go to this ODNR site. What I did, you know, I was like, okay, what are all these things? These are wells. These black lines are, you know, Julie Weatherington Rice can correct me. She's the expert. These are the drilling wells. These little things over here are gas containment areas. I don't know. So I'm going to, what I want to do is I want to get rid of some of those so I can see the landscape a little bit. I want to see where we are, right? I'm going to get rid of this land-based thing. Okay, so now look at where we are. We are, I'm going to click on here. This is East Palestine. Wow, we know that town. Okay, so that's where we are. This is where this well and this incident happened, right where this blue dot is. So I want to like just, what are these blue things, you wonder? Well, those are little water supplies, right? This is the public water supply for Lisbon Village. It's called a source water protection area, right, Julie? So that's what, these are the source water protection areas around this spill. That kind of piques my interest. So I want to know how far those are away. So here, and this again, this is just clicking, you know, as you learn other tools. Wow, there's a measurement tool. Look at that. So I'm going to measure from the well to this source water protection area. Wow, 1.8 miles. Really? Okay. You can get rid of that. How far is it from this water supply? Let's see. 3.98 miles. Okay. So there I can get kind of an idea of what's around this well or this accident that has happened. And I can also scroll in and I see, oh my God, look, Little Bull Creek. That's right next to the well. Wow, how far is that away? Oh boy, 0.14 miles. Yikes. Okay, that's good to know. And then probably these blue things down here are lakes on people's properties. I don't know. And then this down here, this is like the floodplain of that Little Bull Creek, right? Okay, so that is information that I note when I'm doing the daily accident report. It's like, this creek is here, that creek is there, that water supply is here, this urban center is here, that's Rogers Village down there, downgrade from the site. Okay, so I kind of get, this is Elk Run over here. So I kind of get an idea of what water sources or what urban centers are nearby. And then the next step is I take this, I know it's in Columbiana County. I know it's in Salem Township. So the next step is the water well database from the Division of Geological Survey at ODNR. And I've already put it in here. I cheated a little bit. So Columbiana County is there, Salem Township. Okay, now this is always the trickiest part for me. So here's where the well is. We know it sits to the east of Fairfield School Road and north of 558. Here's 558. We know there's a railroad track or whatever that is right there. I don't know what that is. Okay. So essentially what I'm doing is trying to figure out where the well is on this domestic water well map. Okay. I know it's north of 58. Forgive me, it might take a little time here. To the right of Fairfield. Okay, this is Fairfield. Here's the railroad track. I go back. It's to the west of the railroad track. So it's right in this, where's Crestview? Okay, so here's where I'm finding it, about right here. I'm just gonna say it's right here. I do it, try to do it as exact, but for in the interest of time, okay. And I am gonna mark it with a point. And this is, again, this is all stuff I just learned by doing it. So click, click, click and be happy here. You can do it. So that's where the well is. Okay, now the next part I'm going to do is, again, this is where water wells are. And correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, these are domestic water wells. This little drop of water is going to call those up. That's where the domestic water wells are. And you can click on those. Sometimes it takes a while, sometimes it's like a little slow. But this well, when you click on it, will come up. It's not coming up, probably just because there's so much going on. It's probably a domestic water well. This is a domestic water well. That's what these are, domestic water wells. You might find a well that is actually an agricultural irrigation well. So you'll call these up, and I'm sorry it's not working when I click on it for just too much going on. But I can also measure these, which I do in miles. So this, and I'm not going to click right on that because it doesn't work. So I'm going to start this water well. I know that's the domestic water well, is approximately 0.72 miles down from this spill. So all of these water wells downgrade from this spill are something to take note of if and when the spill seeps into the earth. Okay, so we have covered the tracking sheet. We have covered the ODNR well, finding the well. We have covered the water wells. And I want to, and I'm trying to figure out how to, okay, now I'm going to cover the incident. There's a tracking, forgive me. Here's the incident report. So this is the incident report. So what I would do is I would start with the tracking sheet. And if there is an incident report, which honestly, there aren't as many incident reports as I wish there could be. But this is the incident report for this particular spill I'm researching. So I know where the spill happened. I know what water wells are nearby. I know what source water protection areas are nearby. And now I'm reading the source water protection area, which has to be turned in 30 days post-incident by the company in certain instances. And this was one of those instances. I'll just let you read that. Columbiana County, the incident date. Interestingly, controlled. So we know it happened, the incident actually happened for a whole day. It was discovered on 11, controlled on 12. Remember the ODNR spreadsheet said it was only gas that was released? Well, looky here, the produced water of 15 barrels was also released. Produced water or brine, right? Contaminated. So that's something to note, that those two don't match. So then you're just kind of scrolling through, and again, you know, how to read these is really, honestly, just to read them. It's pretty self-explanatory. The company has to describe the containment and the preventative measures. The agencies they notified and when. These pages are usually 8 to 12 pages long. You see here page 4 to 12. So I just scroll through these. Here's the narrative of the incident. Well, that's a red flag. That kind of indicates to me that it's kind of a serious incident, because they usually don't go into like such detail. Usually it's just like a small paragraph. Well, lo and behold, this incident actually, if you look up here on the left, it's actually, the incident report is 265 pages. And it actually was a major accident. And I'll show you, there's the well. Anton, you once asked me about a secondary containment. This is what I was saying. It's like the berm is kind of built up. That's what a containment looks like on a well pad.
It looks pretty contained from what I can tell.
And Julie, you'll have to correct me. This is, you know, it's not like it's impervious. I think they try to make, you know, it's kind of like the compacted you know, aggregate, but that's not concrete as far as I can tell. And here are the residual disposal reports, right? So all this is included in there. They had lots and lots of contaminated soil that they sent off to carbon landfill, right? So this is what's fun about this, is you just get to read all of this when an incident comes on. I mean, really, you just read it. I mean, I'm no expert. So this one has lots of information. They're not usually 65 pages. They're usually like 8. But if an incident is major, they will have to do these testing reports. They'll have to test the soil. There's air testing reports in here. So that's that. So, okay, so then I move on to, and I'm looking at the time. I don't want to take up too much time here. So I've looked at where the well is. I've looked at where the water sources are. I've looked at the incident report in more detail. Now, let's look at the company, because really what you're doing when you look at in this kind of, you know, this kind of incident exploration, if you will, you're looking at the incident, but you're also looking at the company and what kind of record they have in the files of ODNR and the EPA and the US EPA, and for that matter, around the country. What is their environmental record? You look at media stories. Sometimes I'll put in later here, I'll put in Hillcore, oil spill. Guess what? This comes up because it was a big spill and gas, you know, release. And so it was covered. Okay, so let's go to where I am now, the orders by the chief. Now this is accessible on the internet, and we will provide you this link. This is orders by the chief of ODNR, who regulates oil and gas and these incidents. So I'm going to put in here, search of Hillcore. Well, there it is, Hillcore Energy. You never know what you're going to find. Here it looks to me like, I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Okay, there's only one page. Oh, they had a failure to maintain liability insurance in 2014. So you could click on that and read about that. Order for unit operations of it. This is just like paperwork having to do with, we want more wells. Application denial, that catches my eye, but it's really like something like paperwork. They didn't do the paperwork correctly. A lot of denials of applications. What I might want to look for is something like, let me see this one, like Northwood. Here's a company that seems to have, this is what kind of catches my eye sometimes. Oh, suspension of operations. Ooh, that's always a little one I want to click on. Why were their operations suspended? And then you'll read about it, see? You'll read about it. Suspension of operations. And sometimes these go into great detail about what they did and what violations they were issued and what violations they ignored. So that's always kind of fun to look at that. So that's the, let me get out of that. Oh my God, I got so much to open here. Okay, let me see here. Thank you for your attention. So I'm trying to, okay, here we go. So I hope you're still with me. So I've looked at the chief's orders for Hillcore. And, you know, there's some stuff in there, but mainly it's like a lot of paperwork. It doesn't look like the chief has ordered them, sent any orders regarding like, you know, suspensions of such and such. Okay, well now I'm going to go to the Ohio EPA site. We'll provide this link. This is an e-document search. I'm going to put in Hillcore. See what comes up. You see it's working. And what will come up eventually, if it works, is various permits that have been issued to Hillcore, notices of violations that have been issued to Hillcore, and you'll just explore those. You'll see what kind of things have been issued. Doesn't seem like it's going to work. Here we go. Hillcore Energy. So look, there's 8 pages, 1 of 8. So what you would do is you just scroll through there and see if there's any notices of violations. You can also do document search by notice of violations. So again, you just kind of need to click and explore. After the EPA, I often go to the Secretary of State because, as many of you know, these companies often have subsidiaries or they have fictitious names or whatnot. I don't think the this site is up for some reason. It's not working. Usually it is. And you can, when you put in Hillcore, and it'll come up, the documents they've had to file with the Secretary of State, their articles of incorporation or whatnot. And it will also name the different names of what they have been, what they originally were, their fictitious names. And that's always good to know and to note in your, you know, when you're making notes while you're researching. Note all the different names of the companies that are related to this company. And it's also important in the EPA site, especially to try different, you might try the EPA site, you might put in Hillcore and it won't work, but you'll put in Hillcore Energy and it will work. So you have to really kind of know what you're what your company is and what its name is and try different things. Okay, we're almost done with this incident exploration. So what you've done all up until this point, one thing I found was this violation tracker. It's a great resource. So I'm going to put in Hillcore here. Hillcore Energy Company. And this will call up the incidents. I don't know if this is like for investors or whatnot, but they had to pay $932,500 for an environmental violation. So I always do that to see what kind of environmental record they have outside of Ohio, but also inside of Ohio, it will be mentioned in here. So finally, I put in just general Google, like the Hillcore spill. And look, lo and behold, this is what came up from Reuters. Is Youngstown, Ohio, said residents were evacuated to a nearby elementary school. This is this spill. And so I will research the different media coverage on that incident. And I'm sure that one other recent website I found was a website that shows all of the ODNR publicly owned land. And so I can see when spills have happened on that land, which one did recently in Appalachian Hills Wildlife Area. So that's a walkthrough of the daily accident report process.
Jenny, thank you so much. An outstanding job. I created this fun little graphic so that when you're going back through and you are looking near your house, where have these accidents and incidents happened, you can just follow the roadmap that we created here in the slides, and you can refer back to it. Like Jenny had said, we're going to have all of the links available to you, both in the slideshow and on an additional resources page there. So, Jenny, again, thank you so much. I wanted to invite everybody to take part in taking on extractive industries with us here in Ohio. Jenny is working extensively on researching incident reports. She comes out with the daily incident report. And then there's also 240 plus injection wells here in Ohio. Roxanne Groff is diligently working on sifting through suspension reports and seeing why these injection wells were suspended. Do we need to do further testing? Do we need to push our agencies and lawmakers to make sure there's testing so people are safe? Oil and gas waste brine road spreading is used as a de-icer and dust suppressant. It's radioactive, it's toxic, it's very salty, and it's not good for communities. There's also site fights like plastic incineration plants that my coworker Vicky works on, oil and gas waste facilities like the Austin Master Services that Bev Reed of CORE just shut down. And then there's your own community issues that we want to hear about and we want to know about. And so with that, I will just say thank you to everybody here. You can reach out to me and you can reach out to Jenny. Make sure to check out her daily accident report of Ohio on Facebook and like it and share widely. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and launch into a Q&A, but I also would love to have your feedback with a short survey I'm going to pop in the chat. Everybody's praising you up and down in the chat right now, Jenny. Roxanne, go ahead with your question.
It's more a statement. I hate to state the obvious, but the reason, I bet there isn't anybody on this call except those of us who've been working in the oil and gas issues that even knew anything about this. And this is why Rob Rudett can lie and say that there are no problems, environmental problems, or any kind of problems with oil and gas, because they're not reported. And you can see how much work it takes to extract all of this information. Most of these incidents that Jenny and these accidents that Jenny's researching are serious, serious shit. And think about if ODNR was required every time there was an accident, an incident, and a report by the industry, whether it's a fracking operation, a trucking operation, an injection well, that they had to post the entire incident report in the local newspaper. So, because these incidents are happening every day somewhere. And
Yeah.
then Rob Brudette could not get away with his cheat and varmint lies that he has, that there's not a problem with the industry. So there aren't very many people who want to do these deep dives. But if you want to even take your own community and look up the oil and gas wells in your own county, and look at the ones that are near you, look at the ones that are near your neighbors, and see if there have been any problems. And then what you do is you write to Eric Vendel, the chief of the Division of Oil and Gas and the ODNR, and you tell him what lion, cheat, and varmints are out there in the oil and gas industry, because you know something now because you got taught in a webinar how to look up these accidents and incidents, of which there are literally thousands of them. So Jenny, thank you for your incredible work. It's actually terrible, but it's terrible that we have to be the ones to expose all of this, and that our lawmakers, our legislators, and our regulatory agencies, they'll give you the information, they just don't make it available on an everyday basis to everybody so they know. So
Yeah.
Thank you, Roxanne. And I think what I feel like this is doing, and what you do, and what, now, this is all, it's kind of like knowledge is power. And this is there for the taking. It's in the records. And essentially also we are looking at how the regulatory industry, the regulation of this is failing. So it's kind of like looking at, yes, the incident, yes, the companies, but also ODNR and also EPA. What are they doing? And how are they failing? What have they done that doesn't sync up with, those Excel spreadsheets are so empty sometimes. And then when you find other records, for instance, I haven't done hardly any follow-up with EPA, Division of Wildlife, the US EPA, which sometimes these, there are certainly records related to these incidents. So in other words, this deep dive is like multi-agency, and that's just, there's a lot to uncover in there, and how they're either being successful at regulating this or failing us in regulating this.
Jenny, I think that's a great point, and Roxanne too. Thank you for both of your words. I wanted to launch into Q&A really quick, and I saw Nikki Ransom has come through and asked, is there a template that we can refer to when it comes to writing to Eric Vendel? Could you guys give me just a 30-second, maybe verbal template, and maybe I can write something out for the additional resources, and then we'll go to Melinda with her question after that. Should we just call him a lion, cheat, and varmint, like Roxanne said, or is that sufficient? I'm just
Jenny alluded and actually spoke about this, and you have to get then, we just did the records request webinar a few weeks ago, and that's how you ask your question. You get more records on incidents, violations, and then you ask the question to the chief. I just went through the incidents and violations for Hillcore Energy Corporation on such and such a well, and I want to know, why you didn't check the wells in the area. I want to know what the soil testing revealed. I want to know where all of the remediation, how the remediation happened. I want to see the remediation plan. And I mean, it's involved, but those of us who have been doing this for quite some time are happy to walk somebody through or even edit or look at any kind of an email you send to anybody at ODNR or OEPA. I mean, I've been doing this for years. Jenny's been doing it for years, and we'd be happy to look at anything anybody would write, just to see if, because a lot of times people get discouraged because they'll get an email back that says, "Oh, we don't have that," and then
Yeah.
you just go, "Oh, no, now what do I do?" Well, there is something you can do after that. We're happy to help you.
Thanks, Roxanne. I'll go ahead to I saw Melinda's hand up earlier, and then I'll go to Mr. Bushbaum after that.
Okay, thanks, Anton. I just wanted to say that this is all about accountability. And you know, somebody like Rob Brundrett can lie in a media interview because he knows that we have probably not done the research. And I think that the more we know, the more we can directly challenge. And that makes us ultimately stronger. So I don't know who had the idea, whether it was Jenny or Rox or Anton, to look up incidents in your own community. I think that's a brilliant idea. And that way it'll take you through the process to see, is this something worth chatting to somebody at the DNR about, or something that you just need to be aware of? Like, what color's the water in your local creek? So I just want to commend you on this, Jenny. This is really a valuable lesson here today.
Mr. Bushbaum?
Yes, I was going to remember from years past, requesting records from OEPA or EPA that there's a form that I remember filling out also, to request what what records. And sometimes I think the form actually allows the person to denote what records they want, you know, from what corporation, on what span of time, in what county, on what, you know, the more information that a person has about what they're wanting to research, the more you can complete on the form. And then when the form is complete with quite a bit, water quality certification, permit request, yada, yada, then that does get sent off. And I think I saw that name, Richard Bowder, at EPA. And then secondly, it would sound to me like, I know we talked about the incident reports, and this is a question I guess I would ask for Jenny. Does the incident report have information about the remediation plans or the site plan reviews that have made, you know, the referrals or the recommendations for cleanups and what was done? It would sound like to me, you know, I know we bark really hard at this person for making lies, and in his interview, it seems to me, yes, also that he may be just kind of throwing a wet blanket on top of a hot fire and getting a lot of toxic smoke out of it. But to give them some credit whenever we're working with a public agency, we want to kind of get on their good side to say, well, you know, there are things that you are doing right. And I have to ask Jenny, you know, did you find that maybe on these incident reports that they literally are saying what remediations that they've done, whether those remediations, what we feel are good enough, and the regulatory process needs to take it a step further or more to make certain that they're doing what they need to do in order to do a responsible cleanup and remediation, are all things that we can ask them to complete by public comment or asking for better 3745 OIC and ORC. But are they making those recommendations, Jenny?
I found that certainly some have detailed remediation information, for sure, but a lot don't. A lot don't at all. And it's not clear to me that any remediation has happened at all. So in other words, a lot of these require, I mean, literally probably many of the accidents could be studied by a group of people for many days. So again, some have information, some of the incident reports, again, those that have incident reports do have details about the cleanup. We don't, you know, it's sent to this landfill, you know, so many tons of contaminated soil is sent to this landfill. What landfill? Where? Some, you know, so many tons is sent to this processing facility. What processing facility? You mean the one down at Austin Masters that just got closed down and it has waste sitting in it? That's like basically a Superfund site. So yes, there are some details like this big accident that probably got a lot of news coverage, and this is a cynical, forgive me, kind of view on it. It got news coverage, and so it probably was cleaned up pretty meticulously. And, along, in the books, along the books, whatever that phrase is. But there are many incidents that I've come across that I'm like, I don't even know what is happening to that spill. If that makes sense.
Thanks, Jenny, and thank you, Mr. Bushbaum, for your question. Any other questions? I'll take one more. Julie B.
Yeah, Jenny, do you recommend sending it to the media? Maybe after we get these incident reports. I'm not sure if that article came out before, you know what I mean? Or at the time rather, or if that was turned in afterwards, but maybe that's something we can all do when we find out about these incidents, is let our local newspaper know.
Yeah, other people have mentioned kind of letting the media know. And I think, certainly, I think that, it can't hurt. So I think kind of getting a full picture of what has happened and then kind of getting it down on paper and then going to the media, that can't hurt.
Thank you. Zach Bullheimer.
Thank you. On top of that, I think, and maybe Roxanne or Jenny can speak on this, but once you gather the information, I highly suggest looking at your local incidents. That's closest to home, that impacts you directly the most, and your neighbors. And that can allow talking points with your neighbors and friends in your community. And I think my question for Jenny and Roxanne is, like, once you have that information, sure, you can contact Eric Vendel, or you can contact somebody that might be the end of it, or that might not make any waves in any way. But what about reaching out to your local township trustees or your local county commissioners, your mayor? But specifically, the question is on the strategy of the timing of that. Do you reach out to the media first and then call the mayor and say, did you see the article? Did you know this was happening? Or do you reach out to the mayor first?
Go ahead, Roxanne.
I was just going to say, Rob Brundet had no problem coming on these 3 radio programs in Cincinnati and Columbus to talk about how great the industry was. I wonder what his response would be when he's asked about the several thousands of incidents that have been revealed and talk about some of those specific incidents. And I think that's what we'll be doing when we get a little further along. Jenny's putting out an incident a day, and if you paid attention to what she said, it took just an hour to explain it. So imagine how long it takes to actually do the research. So we'll be making some pretty good plans about what we're going to do with this in the end. And Jenny's got a lot of work to do, and she's going to need some help, and she's going to get some help with that. But it's astounding. That's the one word I can come up with.
I'm gonna go corner Rob Brundret at a Walmart and paparazzi him and ask him, what do you think about these spreadsheets, Rob? And he's gonna have to answer to me.
Yeah.
Nikki, I just saw one more thing. Oh yeah, like a billboard, Nikki. Jenny, do you want to close us out? We're over time now by 2 minutes, but how about you just give us some closing thoughts, and we're gonna put this on YouTube so you guys can rewatch it and brush up on your skills.
Thanks, Anton, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about this. And thank you, so many of you, for all the work you do. It's so critical. And as we try to save our Ohio parks for our children, for ourselves, if you look at maps of the gas and oil wells, they are everywhere, everywhere in the eastern part, and Randy can speak to that, who was on the call earlier. And our parks are like a little enclave where they haven't been, and now they're going to be. And it infuriates me as a preschool teacher, as someone in Leave No Child Inside, and just as a human, that these parks that we thought were protected in perpetuity are going to be drilled. And so I think knowledge is power, obviously. So the more knowledge we have, the better. And there are documents on file. Luckily, we have these sunshine laws and such that require this stuff to be on the books at these different agencies. And it's for the taking. It's for us to access it and then put it out there in a way that people will be moved. And it is moving, because it's a freaking disaster what is happening. Just keep in mind that it's only required to be reported when it's 210 gallons on, outside a containment area. 1 gallon of oil can contaminate 1 million gallons of water. And so the average person does not know this is happening. And so I just, we'll get our research team kind of delving more and more into this, and you as citizens more and more into it and becoming empowered with this education.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Everybody, that concludes our webinar. Make sure you follow Buckeye Environmental Network on Facebook and Instagram. We're going to have more informative sessions, even on hydrogen, coming up here in September. And if you guys would like to request trainings or like to learn more, feel free to email me, and please fill out the survey in the chat once again. So thanks everyone, and have a great day.